Hey guys, it's Vic, and today we're going to look at our 10th entry in the Victionary, the Octobrush. The Victionary is a series of guides to help provide a starting point for players looking to pick up new weapons, or those looking for some tips moving forward with the weapons they like. The Octobrush is a wider, slower version of the ink brush. It runs slower and has a wider inking trail. Yeah, when you use its roller form. The slaps of the Octobrush reach further than the ink brush, and it boasts a great kit. The vanilla Octobrush has auto bombs, one of my favorite bombs in the game, and inkjet, one of the strongest specials currently in the game. The Octobrush excels in maps that have lots of open terrain, perfect for sharking around. Weapons that are highly mobile, such as the Splattershot Jr., the N-Zap, and the Splashmatic, all will have a hard time approaching you if you have a lot of ink to move around in. However, you'll quickly find it's very hard to push in by yourself with the Octobrush if you've got no ink to swim in. The Octobrush has deceptively good range. It can hurl blobs of ink in a much wider radius than any other weapon. But just realize this doesn't mean you're invincible. If you're jumping out to opponents with your brush swinging like crazy, yeah, you can get kills. But a longer range opponent can take you out quickly. Your wild walls of ink also don't do anything to opposing shots or bombs. If a bomb is rolled underneath your feet, you'd better move. The Octobrush is best played aggressively, but opportunistically. You'll find more success in surprising opponents than rushing head-on. If you want to learn how to play this weapon opportunistically, I'd recommend using Ninja Squid while you try to get used to the mechanics of the Octobrush. It'll let you sneak through terrain without giving away your location. It might let you get into the left side of a Splat zone or in front of the Rainmaker carrier without being detected. It's not fun to play the Octobrush in the back line the whole time. You can paint areas of the map with your swings very quickly, yes, but you shouldn't stay in one place. The Octobrush is one of the most mobile weapons in the game. Because the brush is in the roller class, you can also ride your Octobrush across gratings to move quicker than retreating opponents. This can net you a splat, or to help you escape a fight. Let's say you want to super jump into a location that is maybe not the most safe. When you're landing, fire a swing before you touch the ground. Instead of landing as a squid in ink that's not your color, you can roll immediately. This also works when you're returning from an inkjet. Don't put yourself in danger by having to swing your way to freedom after you land. You'll save precious seconds and be able to return to the fight. Unfortunately, if you're being camped as you land, even this technique probably won't be able to save you. But if you equip something like Drop Roller, you might be able to get away. Splat Zones is great for the Octobrush. Because you can hold a lot of turf with your brush, you can stay near the zone and pelt swing after victorious swing of ink onto the zone while your teammates push ahead. If you've got good ink coverage around the map, you can also abandon the zone to surprise opponents that are trying to push back in. You don't want opponents pushing into your position. In most cases, if opponents are shooting at you, you'll have to retreat. In the case that you're going to be splatted no matter what though, it's always best to go out swinging. Because you get so many blobs of ink from your swings, you can sometimes get very odd delayed trades when you try to fight an ambusher. Sometimes, you'll be splatted, but your ink will still fall onto an opponent. Of course, a laggy Octobrush is still very hard to deal with because of these blobs. You might get hit with some of them very late after your death, which can be hard to accept. As an Octobrush, you want the area around the Splat Zone to be very well painted. One of the best Splat Zones maps for the Octobrush is Humpback Pump Track. In fact, any map with a single zone is much better for the Octobrush than ones with two zones. Why? You can wrap around and around the zone, netting splats and scaring your opponents. This is called sharking, which I mentioned before. You want to be swimming as much as you can, appearing only to get splats or to spook away foes. If opponents catch on to your strategy, they might start throwing bombs at you, so do be careful. On Humpback, the zone is at the top of a hill. You can swim around the lower ring of the zone, waiting for opponents to drop down from one of the sides. You can also swing from the top of the Humpback zone. It's very hard for opponents that are short range to come up at you if you're swinging sweet death down at them. On the other end, a map like Camp Triggerfish can be really hard for the Octobrush during zones. Your autobombs and your inkjet are the only two things that can make it over there. If you'd like, you can try to flank consistently to try and keep opponents on their toes. But if this strategy fails, it might be best to build up an inkjet and then try to make a push. Back to those swings. The Octobrush's swing has a base damage of 40, but fall-off damage can make the blobs formed by your swing do quite a bit less. There are cases where two Octobrushes can clash and, depending on the number of hits they get, one of the brushes will die first. It's all about positioning. The closer you are to actually hitting your opponents with the full swing of your brush, the better. The Octobrush also has some really odd hitboxes because of the shape of the brush and the shape of your swings. It's also easy to get kills if you're above your opponents and you're able to drop ink onto them. Just remember, it's going to take a little bit longer, more than those usual 3 hits to splat. You'll see that a lot of Octobrushes will jump and flick towards opponents. This is to keep themselves safe as they approach, but it does have a trade-off, seeing as you can't always guarantee that 3-hit splat. The best way to counter this is to try and aim slightly downward when you're rushing an opponent this way. If you try to hit opponents at the edge of your range, these squids will almost always back up and reposition. Then they'll be able to get you, and you won't get any of those kills. Even worse, sometimes your opponents may try to pincer you, and even with your fantastic aiming radius, you won't be able to beam 2 opponents at once. Tower control can be hard for the Octobrush. You want to be sliding around the map, picking up opponents before they can take the tower. The Octobrush is a sitting duck on the tower, but you can punish opponents that try to swim up to it. On maps such as Schellendorf, where the tower is very tall, you don't want to be trying to fling up at opponents on the tower. It's likely they'll splat you before you can get rid of them. Instead, your autobombs make a great threat. If it lands on the tower next to an opponent, it'll immediately blow up. Otherwise, it can move to where an opponent is hiding on the tower, forcing them to move away from the autobomb and giving away their location. The Octobrush loves swim speed based builds. My favorite setup for the Octobrush focuses on swim speed, special power up, and special charge up. This is because I also value the inkjet provided by the Octobrush. Even if you aren't constantly using it, it'll let you escape from fights that you'd otherwise be splatted on. See multiple opponents swarming? Pop your inkjet and force them to run away or risk being splatted. At worst, you might die, but that's okay because you'll at least form a distraction. Just remember that the more splats you can net with your inkjet, the less likely you'll be ambushed when you finally land. For tower control, your inkjet can push opponents off the tower if they have ink armor. You can also punish opponents that are swimming up towards the tower by intercepting their ink. On Rainmaker, you can help to pop the Rainmaker's shield with your autobombs. After doing this initial damage, you'll scare opponents away that could be afraid of a quick pop. If you notice over the course of a match that the opposing team seems to love to pop that Rainmaker shield, you can try to sneak behind the opposing team and snag extra splats. Your brush is also great for painting over a possible path the enemy Rainmaker may have wanted to take. Just a few swings to cover your backside always help. By painting behind you, you're preparing for the future. A Rainmaker won't be able to just run through. Someone will have to make a path for them. You can also use your inkjet to obliterate opponents that might be too focused on the shield to notice you approaching them. Just be careful that if you're floating near the Rainmaker's shield with your inkjet, you might get splatted by an enemy pop. If you're flying in an inkjet, chances are you're not contributing to breaking the Rainmaker's shield. If there's a fight going on below you for the shield, you definitely don't want to be too close. On Clam Blitz? Well, you're a brush. Brushes are uniquely armed to run quickly and efficiently around the match to grab clams. If that's not your style, that's okay. Use your mobility to grab the clams closest to you and get back to sharking. If you and your team have good map control, you can swim around and stop opponents who might be trying to steal clams from your side of the map. You can also anticipate opposing squids and take them out as they fall into the middle of the map for clam collection, just like in Splat zones on Humpback Pump Track. You can try this on New Albacore Hotel and also Starfish Main Stage. I'll recommend that you want to have as many clams as possible because of your great mobility. You're an excellent candidate for juggling clams around the backside of the map with your good mobility. If you don't want to carry 10 clams with you though, you can easily make your way into enemy territory and provide jumping points for teammates with complete clam balls. Position yourself so teammates can throw the clam from wherever they might be running or hiding. If they have a full clam, they'll always have a chance to throw the ball in, even if they get immediately splatted. Something newer players may forget is that as you're landing in your super jump, you can throw the clam before you've fully dropped. This means you'll still get those points, even if you get immediately splatted. Who says you can't land, throw your clam, and then pop an inkjet right away to try and survive? That's all I had to say about the Octobrush. Unlike last week's weapon, the Explosher, the Octobrush is extremely easy to pick up and play. However, in a world of high painting weapons and long range, you shouldn't try to rush at opponents without a plan. Don't go for someone you can't reach. If you can sneak around unnoticed, you'll have amazing results with this weapon. An aggressive Octobrush playstyle is high risk, high reward. The smarter you pressure your opponents, the better your results will tend to be. Don't forget, you can also flush out opponents with an autobomb or two. If you'd like, you only need 4 sub-abilities worth of Ink Saver sub to guarantee 2 autobombs. I'd recommend running at least 5 subs though, that's so you can get a couple of swings after you throw the bombs. Thanks, Godly Llama, for the suggestion. Leave a comment below on what weapons you'd like me to look at next time. I always pick a comment randomly, so you could be next. Interested in other weapons? Take a look at the ones I've already done, and see if a weapon that suits your style has already been covered. Don't be afraid to leave your own thoughts on the Octobrush or other weapons in the comments below. You might be able to improve your own play, or help others by taking time to talk strategy. The Victionaries also have a playlist now, so it's easier than ever to go back and look at other weapons. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day!